Hi, I'm Russ, owner of Fit2Score, Golf Shaft Reviews, and this YouTube channel, Devoted Golfer. I started a golf club fitting and building business when I retired from designing and selling automated factory material handling systems. I have a lifelong passion for machinery, and in a sense, a golf club is a machine. And we might say the shaft is the transmission between your engine, your swing, and the golf club head. I quickly realized there was not a useful database for comparing golf shafts, so I would have to create one. To do so, I had to invent and manufacture an instrument like the instrument used by golf shaft engineers. My experience designing material handling machines made that possible. This instrument is so good, many shaft companies replace their laboratory equipment with it. Today, I'm not going to explain EI profiles. I've done that in other videos. I'm going to make an instructional video for users of this instrument. If you read my reviews or subscribe to my software, this is one of the many videos that will help you understand where the data in the tables come from. So, let's get started. For those of you that own a machine, you know that you have files where you can enter your own data of shafts that you have measured and then compare that against the rest of the database. So you have separate files, they're called the My files. There's one for drivers and there's one for irons. So I'm going to show you how to use the My files today for drivers. So the first thing we're going to do is open the software, and on my desktop I have some icons set up for opening both the main body of the software and for opening the My files. So let's start by opening the main software. You'll see the licensing warnings pop up, and then there it is, we are in the software. Now, what I'm going to do here is move my mouse over, and I'm going to put this onto a portion of the screen right there. Okay, now I'm going to open up the My Driver file, and once again I have a shortcut on my desktop, so let me open that. Okay, there it is opened. And if you haven't used it yet, you'll see in line 300, it just says user 300. So what it's referring to here is that the index number for this first shaft is 300. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to crush it and I'm going to put it down at the bottom of the screen. Now, over here, I'm going to change the pull down, and I'm going to walk down by using the page down key to the very bottom of the database. And when I get down here and move down a little more, this line that says user 3000 is going to show it up. There it was. We passed it. I'm going to go up a little bit. I'm going to get over to it, and I'm going to click on it. Okay, so the files, the shafts that were in the database are gone now, and I'm looking at that line, user 300. I can check these boxes so that they stay blank. Now, what you're going to see happen here is that as I type into line 300, it's going to show up over here, and it's going to show up every place where that gets addressed, such as here. Now, the shaft we're going to use today is a shaft I've already measured, but I'm going to use it for an example because I like it. It's nice and white, and it's going to show up good on the video. So what we have here, I'm going to put in the company. It's made by True Temper. True Temper. And you'll see the name under shaft name begin to get created. This is a Project X Even Flow. Here, Project X Even Flow. Okay, let's tab over to the next one. This is a 65 gram shaft, 65, tab over to the next spot. The flex is a 6.5x. So we're going to put in 6.5 space x. Now you'll see that these all got concatenated into the description, as you can see right here. So this shaft is now sitting alongside of everything else in the system. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to zoom back on this a little bit here. So I'm zooming out. I'm out at 85, so I'm down around 70%, and I'm going to scroll down off of that page to this section of the software, which is designed to monitor what you're doing as you're entering shafts. And so this is pretty much where I live when I'm entering shafts. So now we're going to go down to the My File, and we're going to go to this cell 6, and I'm going to scroll over to it. And I am now in a position to start measuring. Okay, so I've entered the shaft into the database. Now it's time to prepare the shaft for measuring. I'm going to use a dry erase marker whenever I can. Permanent Sharpies on some shafts will go into the ink and you won't be able to get them out. If you're cleaning off the marks from a permanent Sharpie, you would do that with denatured alcohol. So whenever you can, use a dry erase marker. Now I have a ruler that I use all the time, and you can see that there are marks on this ruler every 5 inches. So I'm going to always place the tip of the shaft here at the 5-inch mark, and then every inch I'm going to put a stripe on the shaft, and at these 5-inch markers I'm going to write down the number at that point. So here we go. There's my 6-inch mark. There's 7, and I'm going to put a notation there. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another notation. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Another notation. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Notation. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Another notation. 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, so I've got my marks on the shaft and I'm ready to start measuring. I'm going to put it into the machine, and I'm going to align that first mark with the center scratch that's on the right-hand saddle. Okay, it seems like it's in there firm. The software is at the first mark, is 6-inch, which is the 6-inch mark. I'm going to zero the gauge, drop the load. Now what you see is a little bit of vibration in the shaft. So I want to make sure that I come to 0. When I lift it, I didn't quite get to 0. So I'm going to dampen that vibration by putting my hand over here a little bit. Okay, so I got 584. And when I lift the scale, I got back to 0. So that's good number, 584. I move the cursor right to the next cell. I move the shaft up to the 7-inch mark, re-zero the scale, make sure that it's set in there firmly, zero the scale, drop the weight, 565, raise it, not a good read. I'm at 6. I'll take a read of 1 or 2, occasionally a 3, but a 6 means I've got to remeasure. So I got a 560 there, and I got a 1, so 560 is good. Next mark, 0, drop, 537, not a good read. I'm going to dampen the vibrations here a little bit. 534. That's a good read, 534. So you can see what happens when I load the shaft. What's happening is if it's not centered in the saddles, the load centers the shaft. 504. Not quite there. Let's check that one. 499. That was a good read. And I move on. $479. Not a good read. 472. That was good. 472. Now, if I get the 446, not a good read. 440. So you can now see that I'm at the 12-inch mark here, and I'm at the 12-inch cell over there. So there is a logic, there is a reason for putting these marks on the shaft, and the reason is that if you get out of sync in the two, you'll know you're out of sync, and you won't have to count all of your marks from all the way up. Not a good read. To get yourself back in the correct position. Okay, that was a good read. Now, what would happen here if I don't enter the number correctly? 385. It's zeroed out. 385. Now, let's say instead of 385, I hit the wrong key and I put in 285. Well, what you're going to see in the software is a spike. And shafts don't spike like that. The curve generally tends to be smooth. So if I don't notice that right away, 368, and I move along, $363, not a good read. 358. Okay, so now I happen to look up and whoops, see what I did here? Okay, so this was a 363 and this was a 358, right? And I should be at the 17-inch mark, so I've made a mistake here. And you know, it's important that you see what happens when you make a mistake. So I'm going to go back. It looks like 12 was a good mark, but I can see the 13, something went wrong. I have a spike in the curve. So I'm going to go back to 13, which is here. $389. That was a good read. $389. Okay. Spike disappeared. Oh, put it in the wrong cell. I need to be back here at 13, 389, and you now see the importance of why you number these. 368, that one was correct. Move to the next one. So this is 12, 13, 14, 15. This is 15. And 15 should be 360. Okay, that didn't read in right. 15 is 358. So 15 is 358. And simply by paying attention, I recovered from an error before I went ahead and took 40 readings and then noticed that I was off someplace. So I need to pay attention as I go along. I'm on 17 right now, and 17 is 350, 350. Okay, let's recheck 16 and see if I did that right. Okay, that was right. 352, 351. Okay, so now I'm on 18. Move this forward to 18. Click. Now, I don't often make mistakes like that. Who am I kidding? But the system was built to help you easily recover from mistakes like that. So let's move along here and get the rest of this measured. So it's gut check time. I'm at 32. I need to make sure that in the software I'm at 32. And it's a good practice to look up at every one of these 5-inch increments. And make sure you're in the right place. So there it is. I'm at my last mark, 40 inches. I'm at my last mark there, 40 inches. I can't go any further because I'm going to run out of shaft. Okay, we finished measuring the shaft. Now, when you're using a 3-point system like this to measure hollow tubes, it's not quite as reliable as a 3-point system measuring solids, which is what this process was originally designed to do. When we're measuring tubes, the wall thickness is going to affect the measurement. Because here at the tip you see that the wall thickness is very thick, the shaft isn't going to crush when I push it in this direction. But when I get over to the butt end of this section where the wall thickness is very thin, as I load this shaft, it will actually oval. It will come out of round and oval. So I'm loading the shaft from the top. That ovaling is going to distort my numbers. So we've built another research machine where we have a gauge both on the top and on the bottom, and then we have gauges at each of the 2 saddles. And we have taken those numbers and used them to correct our EI curves, and then we correlated those numbers with what we call hoop deformation. So this is my hoop deformation block. I'm going to put that block right under the center of the press, right there, and I'm going to put the 2-inch mark, or actually the 7-inch mark, which is 2 inches from the tip, right underneath that, center it in there, and in the software I'm going to move over to this section that says hoop deformation, and so here is my first mark on the shaft, which is 2 inches from the tip. So there it is right there. Now now this process is the reverse. The first thing I'm going to do is load the shaft, and once I'm loaded the shaft, I'm going to zero the scale. Now I'm going to use this little block right here to get underneath the shaft and support it, so when I lift the load, the shaft doesn't tip on me. So scale is zeroed, I lift the load, and there's my hoop deformation number 24. I'm going to put that into the first cell, and I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to move this over to my next mark. Now you know why these marks are important at this point. So that's 7 inches from the tip. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to load it up. If you look closely, you saw how the shaft lifted a little bit. So I'm going to just gently support the shaft right there, zero the scale, and let it rise, and that hoop deformation number is 25. I'm going to repeat the process. So you'll see once again, the shaft came up. I'm going to support it, 0 the scale, lift, 33. Now, as you're paying attention to the software, you can begin to see that hoop deformation is affecting the EI number. So here again, it lifted from this end, 0, lift, put in the number 39, and you'll begin to see that curve move. Number again, okay. Here we go, we're going to support the end, lift, 61. Again, now at some point the shaft is going to tip in this direction, so when I do this process, I'm going to support the shaft from this end. So I didn't see any movement of the shaft other than a little bit of a rise. My number was 78, and you see how much hoop deformation has affected a 3-point EI measurement of a hollow tube. And as I move up the shaft, I got an 89 here. Move on to my next point, 37. Click. Support the shaft, 0 the scale. I'm there, 61. And I now move on to my next point, which is 42. So as I put those in, you see how hoop deformation correction shows that the butt of this shaft is stiffer than it was if I had taken these measurements and not corrected for hoop deformation. What you see here is what I call the version 8 machine. And you notice that it has 2 more gauges than the version 7 machine. And although we have a hoop block with it, we're not going to be using it in this part of the discussion of the software. Mark Timms, formerly of Hot Sticks, now Cool Clubs, was the first to invent an independent EI profiling machine. And what he learned from that machine was that hoop deformation distorts the EI profiles of hollow tubes. So let's turn to the software. I've duplicated the first line 2 more times. And what you see here is the first and third line of the software, and here is the middle line. Now, what I did in the middle line of the software was to remove the hoop deformation numbers, and you can see right here exactly how much that changes the EI profiles. Now, at the back end of the software is a section for the people that own this machine, and it's a couple of shaft companies and some fitters that wanted to actually validate what I had done. So I built several of these, not all that many. I think maybe there's a total of 5 of them. So what I'm going to do here is to go to this bottom line, and I'm going to set this to true. And when I set this cell to true, it's going to engage the readings for these 2 gauges. So let's do that right now. T-R-U-E, enter. And what you're going to see is that that yellow line is going to jump from the top to the bottom because we no longer have the hoop deformation that you saw earlier engaged. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to start measuring, and I'm going to be measuring primarily with this lower gauge. We got a 572. Lift it, not a good read. Let's go again. We got a 569. 569. Move on. We're now on the 12-inch mark. 387. Good read, 387. We're now at the 17-inch mark. 328. We're now at the 22-inch mark. 323. Not a good read. 315. That was a good read. 27-inch mark. 245. And you can see already how that yellow line, our bottom line, is moving up closer to the top line, which had our other hoop deformation readings in it. I've got a 190 at 32. And the last spot I can get is 37. 156, 156, enter. Okay, so you can see how we have made a move there. Now I'm going to turn the shaft around, and I'm going to get my first two data points from this saddle, which saved me having to put a fourth gauge on the machine. So I got a 3. Good read. Okay, so I need to move over here because this is the first mark. I've got a 3 here. I'm going to move up to the next mark. 0. Drop. Got a 0. That is not atypical. The walls are very thick here, and so we didn't get any deformation. Now I can reach the next mark by turning the shaft around. So there's my third mark right there. Drop that. Enter. Got a 2. Good read. 2. Enter. Next mark. 3. Eight. Got an 11 there. Oop, not a good read. Try again. Got a 19. Let's give that one more shot. 17. 13. Okay, I'll take a 13. Got a 16 there. That was good. 16, enter. Got a 7. And our last read. Got a 10. Good read. Okay, so you can now look at the data and see how very, very close this extra set of measurements came to just simply using the hoop block. So for those of you that have the single gauge machine and are using the hoop block, you can be confident that the EI curves you're looking at are the same curves that you would get from using basically a 4-gauge system. I hope you enjoyed this video where I show you the measurements that create the numbers that you see in the Fit2Score database. In future episodes of this series, I will show you how the other measurements are taken that create those numbers that you see in golf shaft reviews and in the database. See you soon.